Welcome back. I am Pauline if you're new to my channel, and this is a channel where we talk about locks, beauty, and wellness. So today I will be talking about shrinkage. Shrinkage, especially in locks. And from what I've experienced, some people think that when they get locks that they will no longer have any shrinkage and that they won't have to deal with shrinkage, because when you're loose natural, your shrinkage is like you wash your hair and it stretches down to wherever, shoulder length, bra strap length, and so forth, right? And then when it dries, it's like shoop. You do your twist out you try to elongate your curls and different things like that. So same thing with locks. Shrinkage is real with locks, okay? So shrinkage, it's pretty much when you're locked and the hair draws up into its natural curl pattern. So as your hair continues to lock, your hair continues to shrink and it's pretty much drawing up. So when you lock the hair, if you're braiding or interlocking or anything like that, it stretches, right? And so it stretches the curl pattern. So when the hair gets wet or anything like that, it loosens up. It's not as tight anymore. And so when it loosens up, when it dries, it shrinks, right? Creating that matting look. So over time, it's going to continue to shrink. Humidity, moisture, water, anything that hits it, spray or anything like that, it stretches and then it shrinks. So for the first couple of years, it's going through that stretch motion and shrinking motion. Stretch motion is shrinking motion, and it's basically shrinking to its natural curl pattern. So if you have tight curls, it's going to be tighter. It's going to be more shrinkage. If you have looser curl, you'll see less shrinkage. So I always tell people with tighter curl pattern, you are going to see more shrinkage in your locks than someone with a looser curl pattern. And it's because if your curl is this tight, right? When we do the interlocking or braiding technique, it stretches, right? And as moisture hits it, when moisture hits it, it kind of stays long, right? And then when it dries up, it shrinks. It gets wet, loosens up, it shrinks. It gets wet, loosens up, and as it dries, it shrinks. So the same thing your hair did when it was natural, in its natural loose state, is the same thing that it's going to do in its lock state. Okay, so I always tell people are like, how much shrinkage I'm gonna have? I'm like, how much does your hair shrink now? Because that will determine what you can expect with your locks when you are dealing with shrinkage. Okay, because shrinkage is real. So let me just walk you through your lock journey with shrinkage. So when you get your locks, when you first get your establishment, right? If you're getting braidlocs, Sisterlocs, even two-strand twist locks, your lock starts off elongated. It is stretched, right? The moment you shampoo it or it hits get some type of moisture or you sweat, it begins to shrink. So that elongated stretch look you had in the beginning no longer is there. So it will start drawing up and shrinking, right? If you're starting off with coils, because coils are pretty much wrapping the hair around itself, it's already shrunk, so you won't have to deal with that much shrinkage with coil. With Interlock, you're not dealing with shrinkage because you're already shrinking the hair by creating that matted lock from the beginning. So yeah, that's pretty much what you can expect for the different type of locks in the beginning. Okay, so moving on to the baby stage or the budding stage, some people refer it to, or even the teenage stage. The hair is still shrinking. So if you take pictures at all during your lock journey, you can compare your picture from day one, right? Day one, it is stretched out. And then like 6 months in, it's like, so your hair is still growing. You just don't see the growth because as it grows, it shrinks. And that your hair will go through that process anywhere from 1 to 3 years for some people, okay? So you will see a lot of shrinkage in those first couple of years before you can start seeing the true length of your hair. With that said, after like the second or third year for some people, your hair the locks in itself stop shrinking. You're able to see more of your length because it's not shriveling up anymore. I guess that's the best term I can think of right now. It's not shriveling up. So it stopped shrinking. So it's going to just continue to grow, and it's retaining its length. And because it stopped shrinking, you will see more of your length. That's why a lot of people say the second or third year is when they were really able to see their hair grow. It's been growing the entire time. It's just that now you're able to see the length of your hair because it's not shrinking and drawing up as much. Okay, so when your locks stop shrinking, now you're losing that poof that you're used to, right? When we use the term how the hair grows out and it drops. So once the hair drops, you can pretty much say bye-bye to shrinkage, right? So you're not going to get as much volume as you used to that first 1, 2, 3 years, right? So after the second or third year, for some people, it drops. So it's just hanging. So then it will continue to grow and you won't have to deal with shrinkage. But for the first couple of years, you will deal with shrinkage and you will get more of that volume, that poof with your newer locks. So I have a client that hair has pretty much gone through that process. I'm going to go through her Instagram and steal some of her pictures and put it on here. Of course, I'm going to get her permission, but I feel like her hair, because she takes so many pictures, I have a lot of great examples. I can use her as an example, but literally you can see how much volume she has with her hair for the first the first 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and then boom, it just drops. No more shrinkage, it is elongated. Also, another thing to keep in mind about shrinkage is if you were to ever comb out your locks, the length of the loose hair will be longer than the lock hair. Because keep in mind, your hair has been shrinking and matting together, so it will be shorter in lock form. But if you comb it out, baby, if you had like 5 inches of lock hair, you'll probably end up with like 8, 7, even maybe 9 inches of loose hair because the hair mats together in the lock form, and so it's shriveling up, it's shrinking, and doing all that stuff. In the loose state, it still shrinks, but it's not matted together anymore, so you're able to pull it and see the full length, whereas you're not able to do that with locks. So yes, if you were to comb out your locks, which is another video I will be talking about, is combing out your locks, you will be able to see the difference in the length, right? It will be drastic. Last thing I want to mention about shrinkage. So I get a lot of clients that say, oh, my hair didn't grow as much this time around. I don't think I need a retightening. Honestly, you can go as long as you want for your retightings, depending on the type of locks you have. But keep in mind, just because you don't see a lot of growth doesn't mean that your hair did not grow, okay? What some people don't understand, when your hair is growing, if it's a tighter curl pattern, unless you stretch your hair, you're not going to see the growth as much because it's growing, but it's curling. It's growing, it's curling, it's growing, it's curling. So you're not seeing much of that length as it grows, right? Until you wet it. Because I see that all the time. My clients come, oh, my hair didn't grow that much. You know, I didn't even think I needed a retightening today. So I'm going through their hair and clearly looking at it, yeah, it didn't look like it grew that much, right? Then we go to the shampoo bowl and shampoo the hair and then come back to the chair and they're like, oh my God, that's more new growth than I expected, than I thought. But it's because when your hair is growing, because your hair is naturally curly, you don't see the growth that much, you know? But once you shampoo the hair, it relaxes the curls, so it stretches some, so you're able to see the full new growth. That's why some of you guys, when you first get your retightening, right, and you go a couple of weeks without a shampoo, you're like, oh, it's not really growing. And then you shampoo your hair, you're like, oh my God, I almost need a retightening. And the more you shampoo, the more you see that new growth because it stretches, and you're like, oh my God, I need a retightening. So yeah. So that's something to keep in mind when you feel like, oh my God, my hair isn't growing. It is growing. It's just growing in its, you know, natural curl pattern. So if you have a looser curl pattern, you're able to see the growth more. Whereas someone with a tighter curl pattern, you don't see the curl unless you pull the hair from your scalp to see, and stretch it to see the full growth. So that is it for shrinkage. I hope I have answered your questions. If you have any additional questions, please comment below, because hey, I might have to do a part 2 of this video and we'll go from there. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment for me if you have any comments or if there's anything you want to see. I am happy as always to help. So bye.